Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to cut through all that headline noise, really get into the real stories, find those surprising connections, basically the insights that help you understand this, well, fast-moving world. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating collection of recent reports from the crypto world, and you'll see how things that seem totally separate, corporate warnings, political scandals, they're actually remarkably linked. They're shaping digital assets right now.
Exactly. And our mission really with this deep dive is to pinpoint those critical insights, those maybe surprising patterns within all these global crypto developments. We want to kind of peel back the layers, show you the forces at play underneath, and hopefully give you that aha moment, connecting the dots.
Okay, so let's unpack this then. The first thing that, well, it really jumps out is this major warning from the Chinese e-commerce giant JD.com. They put out this really strong statement on Weibo. That's the huge Chinese microblogging site, basically saying all current services claiming to offer their stablecoin. Fraudulent, full stop. JD.com's been super clear. They haven't issued one. They haven't partnered with anyone, even though you see these claims linking to their Hong Kong subsidiary, JD CoinLink. And we see these fake campaigns, right, popping up on WeChat, the big messaging app over there. Promise like 5,000 JD.com stablecoins just for signing up, plus more for referrals. It's just, well, pure deception.
And what's really fascinating here, I think, is JD.com saying all current services are fake, while at the same time they're showing, strong, legitimate interest in stablecoins themselves. They actually have real plans. They intend to apply for a stablecoin license in Hong Kong. There's that new regulatory framework starting August 1st. And they've been lobbying, along with other big Chinese tech firms, lobbying the People's Bank of China, the PBOC, to allow yuan-pegged stablecoins there.
Right.
And this is all happening, you have to remember, in this wider Chinese context where, crypto trading and mining are mostly banned, and they're pushing the digital yuan hard. But here's where it gets kind of interesting. Recently, we've seen this subtle shift. Some academics, some policy advisors, they're starting to suggest a more open approach to crypto.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like the state-backed International Monetary Institute. They republished an article talking about Bitcoin's potential as a reserve asset. And there was another commentary warning that U.S. dollar-backed stablecoins could be a threat to China's monetary sovereignty. So there's definitely some thinking going on there.
Okay.
And then, if you zoom out even more, it gets even more intriguing. So get this. The same day the U.S. Senate passed that stablecoin-focused Genius Act, the PBOC governor, Pan Gongsheng, announced they're creating an international operations center to promote the digital yuan. But what's really key is that Pan actually mentioned CBDC stablecoins in his speech.
CBDC stablecoins.
Yeah, kind of blurring the lines, right? Between central bank digital currencies, the state's digital money, and the decentralized stablecoins we usually talk about. So it raises this really important question. Is China trying to redefine stablecoins, absorb the concept under their CBDC umbrella? Or is this maybe a sign their policy is just evolving?
Yeah, it's a critical point, isn't it? Because if they are trying to absorb it, sort of redefine the terms, what does that even mean for, say, global interoperability, or for other countries trying to figure this out? Is it like a blueprint for state control, or is it just them pragmatically adapting to, well, a new financial world?
Well, I think the key insight here might be Beijing's strategy. It looks like instead of directly fighting global crypto trends, they're subtly trying to redefine and integrate them into their own state-controlled digital economy. It feels like a sophisticated, maybe long-term play for digital currency dominance, but framing innovation strictly on their terms. It's definitely a complex landscape for you trying to stay informed.
Absolutely. And that story from China really highlights how fast policies can change in this space.
Speaking of markets dealing with unique stuff, let's pivot to South Korea. We've seen this wave of pretty sophisticated phishing scams hitting chat groups there. Specifically, they're impersonating Solana developers. And this seemed to coincide with the launch of a SOL staking ETF in America. That's an exchange-traded fund for Solana staking, basically a way for traditional investors to get exposure without holding the crypto directly.
Right.
So victims were lured into these fake Solana groups on KakaoTalk, that's the big messaging app in Korea. Then they were sent to these counterfeit websites pretending to be Solflare, which is a popular Solana wallet. The hook was free SOL rewards just for creating a wallet.
Classic lure. Exactly. And then, once the wallet's set up, they push users to stake tokens for daily interest. And, quite a few people deposited their SOL because of it. The scammers were incredibly thorough. They impersonated Super Team Korea, that's the local Solana developer community chapter. They set up fake group chats using official Solana branding, posting fake partnership news, event updates.
Wow.
It wasn't just branding either. These fraudulent accounts used the actual names and photos of real people linked to Super Team Korea. And it get worse. Some victims were even convinced to transfer fiat currency, regular money, to bank accounts the scammers gave them, and the fake wallet interfaces. They showed totally fabricated balances to keep the scam going. It's almost like this digital whack-a-mole, isn't it? You spot one scam, another more sophisticated one pops up.
And the broader point here, I think, it's a really powerful illustration of that dark side of, let's call it perceived legitimacy, and how scammers just exploit community trust. The real insight, even in these decentralized systems, the biggest vulnerability often still comes down to human trust and that perceived authority of community figures. That's a lesson way bigger than just crypto, right? The outcome, sadly, was predictable and devastating for the victims. When they tried to take out profits or move their SOL to a real wallet, poof, the scammers either kicked them out of the chat, stopped responding, or just shut down the fake websites entirely. Gone.
Yeah, just vanished. It really hammers home how critical it is for you, the listener, to be so vigilant against these kinds of social engineering tactics.
Yeah.
They're getting smarter.
They really are.
Okay, so moving from scams to the sharp end of regulation. Let's look at India. There's a situation unfolding with the CoinDCX exchange. There's been quite a bit of backlash against CoinDCX, the Indian crypto exchange, because they suddenly delisted about 50 trading pairs with no prior notice. Users were obviously upset, complaining about being forced into sales. Now, the CEO, Sumit Gupta, he came out later and clarified. He said it was only margin trading pairs that were affected, not spot trading. He stressed the tokens are still available for spot trading.
Okay, but what's fascinating here, or maybe revealing, is the reason behind CoinDCX's move. It seems to stem from India's notoriously harsh crypto tax rules. Gupta basically explained that margin trading specifically leads to a higher tax deducted at source that's TDS than customers usually anticipate. India has this 1% TDS on crypto transactions over 10,000 rupees, about $115 US. And then on top of that, there's a flat 30% tax on any capital gains. It makes India, frankly, one of the toughest places globally for crypto taxes.
30% flat tax, wow.
Yeah. And this isn't actually the first time CoinDCX has run into issues like this. They previously backed down on delisting some spot trading pairs after a big community backlash. Gupta himself admitted their communication this time around could have been done better, which, seems like an understatement given the reaction.
You think?
So it really raises this important question, doesn't it? How do these really punitive tax policies end up reshaping the whole landscape, both for the crypto exchanges trying to operate and for individual investors in a huge market like India?
Yeah, absolutely. The direct hit on access and cost is obvious. But you have to wonder, does this kind of heavy-handed approach actually help the Indian economy long term? Or does it just risk pushing all that innovation and investment, underground, or maybe just offshore completely?
That really is the core dilemma. And the insight, I think, is that while these taxes are probably meant to generate revenue and, exert some control over the crypto market, they carry this significant risk of stifling homegrown innovation. And they could just push a lot of crypto activity towards exchanges outside India, or maybe into peer-to-peer channels that are much harder to regulate. It's kind of a classic example, really, of how regulatory pressure, even if it's well-intentioned, can have these major unintended consequences, especially in a fast-moving industry like this.
Okay, finally, let's pivot one more time. This story is, well, something else. It combines geopolitics, scandal, and yes, surprisingly, crypto. And it's playing out at the very highest levels in South Korea. The big news is that prosecutors who actually specialize in crypto-related financial crimes have now joined the investigation into South Korea's former First Lady, Keon-hee. This whole probe has mushroomed, right? It now covers alleged shamanic influence, reports of overseas gambling by religious figures, possible bribery right at the presidential residence. And this is all happening while President Yoon Suk-yeol is facing impeachment after that whole brief martial law declaration late last year.
Quite the backdrop.
Indeed. So the crypto connection specifically, it's really interesting. 3 prosecutors focused on crypto have joined a new unit. They're investigating a man named Jen Sangongdae. He's a shaman accused of being this kind of behind-the-scenes power broker during Yoon's 2022 presidential campaign. But here's the kicker. The investigation into this shaman, Jen, actually grew out of an earlier probe, a probe into a fraudulent cryptocurrency scheme called Queen Bee Coin.
Okay, so that's the link. And the implication, the bigger picture here, is that having these crypto specialists involved strongly suggests that digital assets might have played a much larger role than anyone knew before. A role in this whole web of alleged political bribery connected to Jian. The special counsel team has also picked up a case from the crypto unit involving Han Hak-ja. She's the leader of the, well, controversial Unification Church. Prosecutors are alleging that a former senior official from the Unification Church gave luxury bags, even a diamond necklace, to the shaman, Jian, and that these items were then passed on to the First Lady Kim between April and August 2022. The alleged reason: to influence political decisions.
Wow. Luxury bags and diamonds via shaman, linked back to a crypto investigation.
It gets wilder. There are also suspicions that Ham, the church leader, allegedly lost huge sums of money gambling in Las Vegas, going back as far as 2008. And there are concerns that church funds might have been misappropriated, maybe funneled through illicit channels. Now, the Unification Church denies all this, obviously. They say overseas trips are just routine missionary work. But the probe keeps widening. It now includes allegations about an unregistered ghost building at the presidential residence in Seoul, apparently some kind of screen golf facility. And they're investigating who paid for its construction. The timeline on this is tight. The special counsel team started its investigation on July 2nd. They have 60 days, with a possible 30-day extension. So we should hear more relatively soon.
It is truly eye-opening, isn't it? Seeing how deeply crypto is now getting tangled up in these incredibly high-stakes global power dynamics. I mean, when you see these complex political investigations crossing paths with something as modern as crypto fraud, what does that tell you about the actual scope of influence these digital assets now wield?
Well, the insight seems pretty clear, doesn't it? Crypto just isn't some fringe thing anymore. It's becoming this almost unavoidable thread that's woven right into the fabric of these complex, high-stakes cases. It's really challenging our traditional ideas about law, about financial crime. It just shows how profoundly digital assets are reshaping how we understand influence and wealth and, frankly, illicit activity at pretty much every level.
Well, that really was quite the deep dive, wasn't it? We went from a huge Chinese e-commerce firm warning about fake stablecoins, to sophisticated Solana scams targeting users in South Korea, then through India's really tough crypto tax situation, and landed in this massive political scandal in South Korea that has these surprising crypto threads running through it. It's a remarkable range of stories, but somehow all connected.
Indeed it is. So the final thought, perhaps, for you, the listener, what does all this actually mean for someone just trying to navigate the digital age, trying to stay informed? Well, despite how different these incidents seem on the surface, corporate statements, individual scams, high-level political probes, they all really highlight this growing and often unpredictable entanglement. Digital assets are getting mixed up with global economics, with regulation, even with social and political structures. Maybe consider this. How does the rapid evolution of crypto technology keep challenging our traditional frameworks of law, finance, even ethics? It really makes critical thinking, now more than ever, absolutely essential.